All right, so this is another episode of Trip on This. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm here today. This is sorry about the delay in the last couple shows. I've been traveling a little bit, but we are back. So you're welcome to participate. Of course, the chat room is open. We're not taking live calls tonight. I'm going to try this show without it because too many technical problems getting live calls. And what's up, Benjamin, Luna, and what's up, everybody? And yeah, I got special guest today. We're going to be doing conspiracy theories. We're talking with Logan, my buddy here in San Diego, an expert on the topic of conspiracy theories. Thought we'd roll in with something recent, like with the coronavirus type thing. He's kind of a skeptic of it. I'm going to hear his thoughts on it and see what he's got to say. What's up, Logan? How you doing, man?
Hey, it's good to be back.
Thanks, man. Thanks for calling in. So, you had some thoughts on the corona thing, man. Last time we were hanging out, you kind of like toward the under the impression that it's kind of like a hoax, kind of, or it's not as valid as it seems to be.
Well, all right. So you got to understand with these things that you're not going to always get a 100% hoax or a 100% real event, especially with the way the media does things. But the deaths are being falsified. That's been proven. A great number of them, anyway.
Okay.
And so that's provable. Why anyone's doing that? There's all kinds of reasons. The hospitals aren't getting money for the COVID cases, like a lot of money. And so there's just a lot of questions to be asked here. But I think more importantly, when we're talking about this issue, the human rights element does kind of go in there, because now if you're in a hospital and you die in a hospital, you're probably going to die alone. Your family's not allowed to be around you while you're in the hospital in many places. Well,
one thing, speaking about the doctors signing for it, I did see something on some news show. It's like a fairly legit news show. It's like, I don't remember if it was Fox or NBC or whatever it was, and some doctors coming forward saying that they were being told to sign off that, on anybody that dies, like of natural causes, even to sign it as corona, related, so that they keep getting funding. So you hear anything about that?
Yeah, no, I've heard a lot about that, and we can look back further, to like, well, of course, everybody remembers the swine flu and then the bird flu. I don't know what order they came in, but people just didn't really take it seriously, or it was like I definitely ignored it because I was just like, oh, there's just another virus scare. I think a lot of people felt like that, so they really ramped up the effort this time, in my view.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, man. Yeah, the last couple didn't take. Yeah, you're right. They didn't take very seriously. Maybe this one might be taken a little bit too seriously. But yeah. I don't know. Maybe they're just maybe there's an agenda behind it. Maybe they're just trying to be ultra cautious because maybe it has, like they said, that maybe the corona, although not as fatal as a lot of people believe, but it's so highly contagious because it can incubate for 2 weeks instead of a few days. Some people have it for 2 weeks before they even know they're sick, which makes it more contagious. It's hard to say, man. I mean, I'm not a doctor, and you get different facts from different people depending on the source, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to know for sure with a lot of these things. As I said, I don't know if it's 100% hoax, or there is a virus, or there isn't a virus, or because I've heard the conflicting viewpoints about it, and the one that seems to get attacked most in the media is that there is a virus, and the deaths are being faked, but the virus is real, and it's basically everywhere. Everybody has it, so
Have you noticed like how Trump won't refer to it as the COVID-19? He refers to it as a China virus. Like every time he refers to it, he's like the China virus. I think that's funny as shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they got some. He goes off the teleprompter all the time. That's what the people like about him. That's why he's fun to watch on TV.
Yeah, he is kind of fun to watch on TV for that reason. It's like it's almost kind of racist in a sense where it's just like, I mean, I guess since it came out of China, it's kind of fair enough to call it the China virus, but I'm sure a lot of the Chinese people don't appreciate that, calling it the China virus.
Well, there's all kinds of funny names for it. I know all of them. COVID 1984, the Kung Flu.
Kung Flu. That's funny.
Yeah, I like to call it the Type 56 Kalashnikov.
I think that'll go over a lot of people's heads, but that's kind of funny too.
Yeah, that's the Chinese AK-47. So,
Right on, man. Right on. Well, what do you think the end cause of this is going to be? I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be end in sight, or do you think what's your theory as to why it's being treated the way it is? Do you think it's about money, or do you think it's about a shift of power? You think it's about more control over the people? What do you think?
All of the above, man. And there's different camps, obviously, different factions that are benefiting from what's going on. It's both a test for later things they want to bring in, and probably let me see, how do I say this? I doubt, like, once the government gets power and, like, knows they can do something, they rarely quit doing it. If you've ever noticed that. So, there's some pretty bad implications, but if you want to be an optimist, and I try to be an optimist, especially with these things. Once you learn about this kind of stuff, being an optimist is really hard, but I think it's important. It could just be so it was an attempted election fraud, so they could mess with the mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
If that's all it turns out to be, then no, and then everything ends after November. That would be awesome. But
I've got a theory. I've got a theory that a lot of people haven't thought of, you mentioned it there, the election issue, with the COVID-19 thing, busting out in March, which is what was 8 months before the election is when it really came.
Why is it always before an election?
Right. And you know how many millions of people, including myself, made free money, thousands of dollars. I think by the end of this, with my unemployment, because I got laid off because of the Corona thing, and I've been able to collect unemployment ever since. With the stimulus bonuses, man, I added it all up. I'm basically getting free for not working. I would have been paid at the end of the day when this is all over, my unemployment runs out. I'll have been paid close to about $18,000 to not work. That's a lot of money.
People have gotten even more.
Yeah, I know, right? That's a lot of money and free money. $18,000 not to work. I got a free paid vacation for like 10 months. And who's responsible for that? I know it's not Trump, but because he's president, I mean, a lot of people are going to vote for him because of that, because he made a lot of people thousands of dollars for this. Or he's at least the face behind it. He's, I know there's a Senate in the legislature and shit, but he's the face behind it. So I don't know. Yeah,
and I have my iffy moments about the Orange Man. Like, for example, I don't vote, but if he turns out turning a frown upside down with this stupid year, then that would be pretty good. But I don't think he's going to do it. But as you said, he's going to claim credit.
Of course. I know he's signing all the stimulus checks with his name on it, so that's kind of cool too. Obviously he's. I think he's going to win by a pretty good landslide here. But that's just me. I'm not real political, as you can see. I don't know if you can see, Logan, because you may not be watching, but my shirt says Cthulhu 2020, and it says, "Why vote for a lesser evil?" So. Oh
yeah, I like that shirt. Yeah. I have a giant meteor 2016 shirt. It's like just giant meteor and says "End it all."
Oh, nice. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Something tells me that by the end of the year, I think people, once the presidential thing's done, I think people will be a little frustrated and aggravated. I know you are, and I am, with having to wear these fucking masks everywhere. And I know Halloween's going to be shitty because we're not going to be able to go out and party, So like we would be last year. So I think after that, the presidential election, whenever that fucking ends, right? Because I think there's going to be a big old fucking stink about that, which we can get into in a little bit, about that conspiracy theory. I think people will be done with it. I think people will just be like, fuck it, we're not fucking doing this anymore. We'll see.
Yeah. Eventually there's going to be I hope there's a tipping point to where people are like, all right, we're just not going to take this seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I know now 3 or 4 people who got tested positive for it. They tested positive because they came down with symptoms and got tested. So we're going to just assume that that's actually that they, truth. We're just going to have to assume that's truth, that they had it because they think they had it and they were sick. None of them said that it was like any worse than a regular flu, except there's a respiratory issue behind it, like, that a bad cough and, stuff like that, or wheezing and stuff. So, I mean, it sounds like it's a shitty thing to have, but at the same time, Mike and I actually came down with almost the exact same symptoms at the exact same time with the COVID symptoms. Back in October after Halloween, we caught it in like a week after October, we went to a Halloween party, and like 6 or 7 people all came down with the same symptoms, and they were like COVID symptoms. Not saying that it was, but it was weird because it has the exact same symptoms. But who knows? Some of us probably already had it and don't even know it.
Well, and it goes back to, again, this is another point I make about it. I mean, the best time to roll out a flu epidemic psyop is during the flu season, which, March is hay fever season. So,
the timing was impeccable. That's true.
Yeah, and that's. Some people like to leave it there, but there's plenty of research you can do. And if you don't like reading, which I know some people don't, you can watch a documentary called Plandemic. And that's some actual doctors that made that. So
that's the one.
They get very in-depth about it.
Awesome. What else were we going to talk about? What about the how about the presidential election? Like with the mail-in thing going on and stuff like that. And what is it now? Is it Trump saying that he doesn't want the mail-in thing, or is it the other guy saying it? I don't really follow it that well.
Well, I don't either. They are claiming that it's attempted election fraud, as I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And everybody's on the right's crying election fraud right now, or attempted election fraud. Supposedly, it was an attempt that got foiled, is the way they're trying to spin it. But you never know. I think all the elections are a fraud, and it's but they're doing a good job this year. If you don't like the media, there's a candidate for you. So
Who's that?
Well, I mean, if you don't like the media, you could go for Trump or you could go for Joe Jorgensen. I mean, they threw out options for that, so at least they're acknowledging that. People know a lot of stuff that they didn't know, 10, 20 years ago.
Cool. Who do you think is going to win, man? You think it's going to be Trump or the other guy?
Probably the orange man.
Probably
because they've been going around antagonizing his constituency. So I mean, they're probably pissed. All the people that were right leaning last time are probably going to vote for him. So the silent majority is going to going to show really hard this time, I think.
Well, as far as that goes, man, I mean, as many Trump haters as there are, I was up in El Cajon for about 10 days. My girlfriend's down here visiting, and different parts of San Diego, like where you and I live, pretty left-wing liberal, blah, blah, blah. You know how it is. You don't see a lot of MAGA, Make America Great Again. You don't see a lot of MAGA, whatever they call them, guys. But in El Cajon, dude, they had a parade of them. They drive around every Sunday, and there's probably like 50 or 60 cars, with the Trump 2020, and they have megaphones shouting out the window at like the small little groups of like Antifa guys that are like, little pockets of these guys show up. But, but it's pretty, it's like, depending on where you live. I mean, I can only imagine, like, if you were someplace that was a lot more conservative, that you saw a lot more MAGA guys, because and here in San Diego, being so liberal, you don't really see that often. But in El Cajon, man, it was pretty big force of those guys cruising around. So it's going to be hard to say.
Oh yeah, it's getting crazy this year, dude.
It is kind of crazy, man. I wanted to mention that real quick. I didn't tell you the other night, but I was down there with my girl, and we were just down there at the park. We didn't even know. We went to the park to take pictures and shit, to film some stuff. Not had any idea that Antifa was camping up there. Not having any idea that the MAGA guys, MAGA America, Trump supporters were there too, right? Trump supporters were in the car. The Antifa guys were again, occupied, if you want to call it that, little pocket of this like little tiny park in El Cajon, right? A suburb of San Diego, right? And they were there. We didn't know. And we're just showing up, and I'm just filming it because I got a couple new cameras and shit, testing this shit out with my girl. And like, I was wearing this shirt, right? This Cthulhu 2020. And from a distance, because it's made to look like a political shirt, from a distance, it looks like probably like a Trump shirt, right? From a distance, but it clearly has a picture of Cthulhu on it, right? But it looks like I can see how you could be mistaken from a distance easily. And it's red, white, and blue, right? And I have camouflage pants on and shit, right? And my girl was wearing.
No, you're wearing the colors of the country you live in.
Yeah, I know, right. And my girlfriend had a Satanic International Network shirt with like a big Baphomet on it, like on the front of it. And the Antifa people were starting to talk shit. They're like, there's an army of us, motherfucker. You want to come over here? And then they're talking shit about my girl and shit, like a couple, and they're like there's like 12 like teenagers. They're like teenagers, man, like high school kids. But there's 12 of them, right? And then so I'm just like, let's just fucking get out of here. Just because, they were going to piss me off, dude, and I was going to go over there and start hitting people and I go to jail, if not, get jumped by 12 of them, right? So we left, and as we're walking out, the Trump supporters are driving down the street with the big parade, right? And there's a group of them sitting at a bar that has a patio outside, and they thought we were the Antifa people. So the Antifa people thought we were the other guys. The other guys thought we were the Antifa people. So we're getting shit from both sides. I'm like, we need to get the fuck out of here, like now, and change our fucking shirts.
Whipped up, dude.
Yeah, they are. They're getting fucking rallied up, man. It's kind of funny, man. I mean, I like to watch it. I need to figure out how to dress as like neutral, right? Instead I can just go and like film this shit, because it's fucking hilarious, man. I think it's funny, either way you look at it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely, you could probably make money filming it if you get something that goes viral. So
yeah, these guys in El Cajon are called East. I'll give them a little plug. The MAGA guys, they're the East Side Defenders, or East Side Area Defenders, something like that. So that's what they're called. Yeah, and they're not fucking around, man. There's about 50 like Dodge Ram fucking 4x4s and F450s and shit driving down with megaphones with Trump flags, yelling at people, saying like, slurs I probably shouldn't say over the radio, but you know what I'm saying? It's pretty funny though, man. We had a blast watching all this shit go down. But
yeah, and I went to their little protest about what was it, George Floyd or whatever, and like they were saying some pretty racist shit about white people at that thing. Like that's why I was kind of like, I thought we hated the cops, you know, like, you know, I just left. I was done with it. Yeah, everybody's just acting stupid, and you know, it's like I remain Switzerland on all of this stuff, but like there's a part of me that's a little bit right leaning though.
Well, I think a lot of left people, man, like, you know, are just because the left's starting to go so extreme left. I think a lot of people, hopefully, will see it for what it is, the epic stupidity of the extreme left, and start to get more centered. Because it really, I mean, both sides, extreme right and extreme left, are both kind of silly, but you know, for different reasons, but both equally as silly. I mean, centered is kind of more the way to be, which is basically just being a critical thinker. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
Centered is another word for.
Well, and I mean, also read other countries' history, not just your own country's history. I mean, you could look at what happened in South Africa in the early 2000s, in the 90s. You could look at what happened with the whole Milosevic situation. Like, you know, it's always this thing where the media attacks the younger generation and makes them attack the nation state or the government that they're dealing with. Now, there's different, like, you know, ways that it's done. I think here it's just done as a way to go through the motions and not actually dissolve the government. But it's gotten pretty bad in some other places, though, like especially South Africa with the ANC and everything like that. They were executing people, and there were pogroms, and it was a pretty bad situation.
Yeah, I don't follow very much. Was that an old story, or is that something that's going on now?
That was it was throughout the 80s and 90s in South Africa, and they were, you know, the extreme left faction were very, very violent in that country. One of the things they did to people that wouldn't toe the party line is they do a thing called a necklace, where they tie you up, hang a tire around your neck, douse the tire in gasoline, and light you on fire that way.
Wow, that's pretty critical.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's a question of, you know, that could happen in this country. Hopefully it won't, because Americans are a lot more domesticated, I think. But, you know, we've already seen some violence. So, you know, if it does go to a point of civil war, I'm fighting for whoever pays me, basically. Like, because that's another thing. If you fight for the revolutionary government, sometimes they'll just execute you and not pay you afterwards. That's what communist governments really like to do, especially revolutionary communist governments. Is they'll be like, oh yeah, we're going to pay you all this money, help us win the war. And then you win the war, and they're like, oh, you're dangerous, we're going to have to kill you.
Yeah, man. You know, to you know, not to sound too pro-Trump, because I want to have to make a criticism about his political campaign. I've seen some of the most ridiculous, retarded Trump campaign videos on YouTube. It's like basically saying that, you know, the other guy's fucking supporters are like supporting like violence and like anarchy and shit like that. Even though, you know, it's a small group of the Antifa people that are extremists. But Trump's campaign, not Trump, but Trump's campaign is making it sound like if you vote for this guy, you're fucking not American and you're a terrorist. Is kind of what they're saying. Oh yeah, which is a little fucking extreme.
You got to understand, his demographic are a lot older people. Like, that's they're true. Older than us for the most part. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. Let's move on to another one, because I think people get bored of politics. I know I do. What's something? Anybody else? Anybody have a suggestion? Conspiracy theory? Anybody? We want to do aliens?
Sure, I can talk about aliens. What do you want to know specifically about the alien human issue?
Sure. Do you think we've been visited, and do you think they're here, and do you think the government knows about it?
Yeah. The government has had some sort of working relationship with a few different ETs that's come out over the years. The extent to how much they've dealt with the ETs, though, that's very arguable. We do know that they are keeping technology they got from them secret, and they are testing it. Who knows what the fuck they're building? But if you want to scale, you know, their mission statement at DARPA?
Nope.
We solve DARPA hard problems. And so that means, you know, they're probably making stuff at DARPA that's past Star Trek right
now. What is DARPA again, for those who don't know? And for me, that just took a hit of some wacky tobacco. What is DARPA again?
Defense Advanced Research Projects Association, I believe.
Okay, cool. So
I might have gotten that wrong. I don't know. I'll Google it here.
that's close enough, though.
Wait.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about now. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Do you think they're do you think why do you think the government would be hiding the fact of that extraterrestrials are real? Now, if I'm asking you this because I don't, I'm asking you this for our listeners, not really because I mean, I've talked about this in extent. So, but why would you think they would cover it up?
There's a lot of different reasons. For the most part, the one that they tell people, that they go around telling people is, hey, we don't release this. Pat yourself on the back for finding out, but we can't let everyone else find out, or there'll be mass panic. That's what they were telling people that found out about this earlier on, like post Project Blue Book. They were saying that, and now they've just come out and admitted it, but not to an extent to where it's actually been disclosed now on a wider scale. And what I mean by that specifically, you can watch, for example, Dr. Stephen Greer's work. Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. I didn't see anything false in that documentary. I mean, I was just kind of like, when I watched that, I was like, oh, well, we already knew. But they've basically come out and admitted everything but free energy. And that's the thing that's never going to come out. But they are sitting on free energy too. And I don't know whether that's from Tesla or contact with the ATs, but I do know that they have it.
Yeah, I remember Dr. Greer. I liked his stuff on the Disclosure Project back in, the early 2000s. Since then, though, I don't know. I've watched some of his stuff, man. Maybe it's because he's, maybe it's because it's become so big that now maybe he's making money out of it or profiteering on it. I don't know if that's true either, but he's kind of got a little white light, like spiritual, too much spiritualism in it. Too much like aliens are here to create peace and love and harmony. It's like, well, we don't really know that, for one. Like, they could be here, like, we're going to fucking wait until you destroy each other and take you over. You know what I mean? He's just become a little bit too mystical, too little Sedona, Arizona pyramid guy for me. But I do like his early stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, and there's also the people that who pointed out that he says all the alien beings that you'll come in contact with have your best interests in heart. And I don't know if that's true.
Not sure either. Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch to say this otherworldly being you're communicating with that man cannot possibly comprehend, yet you comprehend its intentions completely because of what it told you.
There's also the theory that it's interesting that maybe aliens have actually always been here, and we're just now becoming aware of it.
Well, I mean, that's the better idea. I mean, I'm sure that's the case too. I mean, they're probably at different technology levels themselves, and some of them have discovered us and then felt like it wasn't even worth it to reveal themselves and then left. We just don't know anything as far as that goes. The ancient alien stuff, you got to take that with a grain of salt because a lot of it's been exposed as fraud and everything like that. There's actually a website you can go to about that called sataniciswrong.com, and they basically take apart the whole ancient aliens theory and just tell everybody what a horrible human being Zachariah Sitchin is. And it's a great read.
It's also weird. I mean, the ancient alien thing now there's a theory, and then there's there's the TV show, right? The TV series. I mean, some of it's kind of interesting, but yeah, you definitely got to take that with a grain of salt too, because here's a series that's making money, millions of dollars on TV. So of course that thing's been running now. What, it's in the 13th or 14th season, something like that. So they're to keep that thing alive, they're gonna have to keep kind of with better theories and more far stretched things where you end up pulling what was a good good string, and you stretch it so far is now not only is it not believable, but it's also kind of it's just come apart now. Now it's just kind of ludicrous. A lot of it is at least the last probably 4 or 5 not seasons, but episodes that I've seen from the most recent season were just kind of retarded, to the point where I'm not even going to watch anymore.
Well, see, that's what happens when you make wild claims that you can't prove, because one of the things that they said on Ancient Aliens was they were at, I think it was Puma Punku, and they're like, the stones are wedged together so accurately you can't even get a piece of paper in between them. And so you got the guys from sataniciswrong.com, there's videos of them literally passing paper through it and their passport and all kinds of other shit. That was funny.
Yeah, that's true. I'll tell you what, though, I do love the guy with the crazy hair, especially when I forget his name. What's that guy's name again? You remember what I'm talking about?
I forget. He's in that meme. I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
Yep. Yeah, that meme, that guy. Yeah, and the look on his face, man. He always looks like he's really fucking high, that big crazy hair. I love that guy. Like that guy can almost, he can say the most ridiculous things, man. And just like watching him is like, to me, is kind of entertaining. So,
well, it's, yeah. And if you're a person that researches and writes on these topics, you really have to, you know, because the first thing you get when you're researching something is probably going to be bullshit. Like if you research and write about this, you're wading through a lot of bullshit, and you got to really look at your information and say, is this likely? Even though, you know, they've presented all this so-called evidence, well, you're just reading it, and they're rattling the evidence off to you and then citing the source the evidence came from. Well, maybe the source they got the evidence from was wrong, so you have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, yeah, and you also, you know, look at, you know, again, like, you know, who's profiteering from what. That's a good way to find out a lot of bullshit and a lot of misinformation is you figure out who's making money off, you know, leaking or not leaking, but just advertising this stuff. Then you can kind of like gauge if it's true or not. I mean, the alien things is no different, you know, and kind of like to like when you say about, you know, you're gonna have to sort through a lot of bullshit. It's like occultism, you know, just like Satanism, like we've talked about, both being Satanists and whatnot, is like, yeah, I mean, 98% of what you read is misinformation, or, you know, what's out there that people believe to be associated with a term called Satanism, or even a term called aliens or UFOs. You know, 98% of it's going to be misinformation, or it's going to be misconstrued, you know, until you actually start to dig deep and apply what we call critical thinking. So,
Right.
Right. Yeah. That's cool. So I think pretty much everybody, probably all of our listeners, are probably on the same page too, because it's almost like you got to be pretty fucking dense to like to be of the to be a skeptic of aliens, you know, is fine. Like when I say skeptic, like to be a skeptic to the sense where you might question, like, is lights in the sky UFOs, or, you know, not UFOs, but really alien spacecrafts, I should say. Yeah, be a skeptic of that, because most of them aren't, right? But, you know, or be a skeptic if they've actually visited Earth even. That I can totally be down with somebody who's a hardcore skeptic, but to, you know, dismiss, it's just improbable to think that there are not aliens, you know, in our universe, you know.
Well, it's not really a question anymore about the A's, because like the DoD released a video of them tracking one. They're like, yeah, we don't know what that is.
That's cool. And so
it's out now.
Okay, and then they know it's alien, and they know it's not an asteroid or a whatever, a down satellite or whatever, right?
I don't know how they spun it. Like I was just at that point, I had known about this for so long. I was about time, you know. But
yeah.
They went on CNN and say, yeah, we don't know what this is, and we were tracking it. So that's kind of interesting.
That is interesting, and maybe I think that if you look at like all of the as far as aliens go, I think it's no coincidence that starting from the late 70s, got big in the late 80s. If you look at like all of the alien movies and all, like, you know, the movies that came out and stuff like that, and then you have cartoons, you know, you have every aspect of the media started to get really saturated from the 80s on, and now it's to the point where you go into Target, you can't walk through a Walmart or Target without seeing pictures of fucking aliens on lunchboxes, on fucking school supplies. It's almost like we're being conditioned to accept, for younger people specifically, conditioned now with cartoons and, like, you know, stuff like that, and school supplies and shit, to accept the fact that we are not alone. Whereas 50 to 70 years ago, that was, you know, you were a fucking kook if you actually believed that aliens are real, you know, in most of America anyway. Now it's like your kids get to buy an alien on a lunchbox. Of course they're real.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of interesting, the paradigm shift that happened there. And there's still the people that, for example, you got your Christians who think that the aliens are demons, and the evil aliens want us to worship them.
What is the alleged demon god Inky? Is that what it is, or the alien demon Satan thing? Am I right about that? Do you remember?
Anunnaki or something like that, and they believe, some Christians believe that the aliens are like closer to Nephilim and stuff like that, and they have all kinds of stories about that. And there's some really wild theories about it. It's definitely done the rounds through almost every group. But yeah, you're right about what you said about most of the satanic community being fairly red-pilled, and I think that could bring us to the TST. We could mention that a little bit and why that's kind of being disliked in Satanism at the moment.
Yeah, why not, man? You know, so we touched upon the Satan thing. Let's move to the next conspiracy theory. What do you want to talk about, the TST or Satanism? Or actually, they're kind of related, so why not talk about both of them?
Well, yeah, we could talk about the Satanic Panic and the TST.
Sure, why not? I'll let you roll into your favorite.
Okay, well, the Satanic Panic was just as overblown as this COVID stuff was in certain ways, because number one, the government back then, I've said this before, the government back then was more right-leaning, so they did more right-wing Christian psyops and stuff like that. So it was the bigger thing back then, and you could scare a lot of people by having a satanic cult scare in their area. And so it was overblown, but it was overblown to cover something up. Okay, so you had the Satanic Panic stuff and everything like that, and personally, my opinion on that is it was made to slide a lot of stuff that came out during that time. So, have you ever heard of the Boys Town scandal?
I have, but you have to remind me because it's been a while since I've heard of that one. I'm sure most people haven't, unless they're in depth.
Well, okay, so some of your listeners might think, for example, that the theory of elite pedophile rings of rich people is a recent invention. And some people believe in it, some people don't. But the fact is, one actually got exposed in, I think it was the late 80s, and the head of it was a Republican guy. It was Lawrence King. And so he was running everything and using it as the pedophile ring to blackmail political opponents and allies alike. And that whole scandal just came barreling out during that time. And it's interesting that the Satanic Panic stuff starts right after that and kind of looks ridiculous on purpose if you saw some of it.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, you're talking about the Satanic. I'm sorry, I spaced off for a minute. You talking about the Satanic Panic, or are you talking about the Boys Town thing?
Well, I'm talking about how it was kind of interesting how it happened right after that thing got exposed.
Oh, see, I didn't put the two. I didn't. My history timeline is a little off, but yeah, being 44, when the Satanic Panic happened in the late 80s, late 80s through up the early 90s. Yeah, that's kind of what actually got me interested into Satanism, because I was just like, there ain't no fuck. I didn't know anything about Satanism except for what the media said, because I was like 13. I was like, wait a minute, there's no fucking way people are like sacrificing animals and eating babies and boiling people in acid baths to cover up the evidence and all this shit. So I was like, let me see if that's really true. And I started reading, and that's kind of how I discovered it. So the Satanic Panic kind of backfired for probably a small portion of that generation. I actually went on to explore it because of the curiosity that it aroused in the media. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and so that's one of the things Lucian Greaves loves to talk about is the Satanic Panic. But you cannot get him to mention the Lawrence King affair or any of the things that got exposed during that period. And he loves to talk about McMartin Preschool, though, and the preschool scandal. And there's also another one at this place called the Presidio, which involved Michael Aquino. And personally, I think those were psyops. I agree with a lot of what he says about it. It was clearly an obvious psyop. And there were military intelligence connections with the McMartin family, a lot of military intelligence connections, things with the Presidio. And I wouldn't doubt for a minute that he uncovered a psyop there. I'm not going against any of the claims he's made about the Satanic Panic. Most of them are correct. But and also he exposed Ted Gunderson as kind of really ridiculous. And people that are into like looking at this history stuff and just the Satanic Panic in general, just stay away from Ted Gunderson, man. Ted Gunderson really was full of shit. Personally, I think he was a plant.
What do you think the connection was with the TST being funded by the Jews?
Yeah, that's a tough one. As I said, I think Satanism has always had outside influence, and there's always been this sort of red-pilled element of Satanism that kind of just doesn't get talked about very much. But within Satanism, there's just a lot of people that know certain stuff, and so an antithesis to that was going to happen eventually. I saw it coming years ago. I was like, look, there's going to be this lefty normie version of Satanism, and sure, it came out. It came out a lot sooner than I thought it would actually.
Yeah, it's weird. I was involved with the Satanic Temple when they started back in 2013. Well, not started, but when I became aware of it, which was on the Comedy Central show, when they asked me to do the skit for Satanism, that's when they assumed that all Satanists were TST because they started talking about the Adopt a Highway thing, which just came out in the media. I don't really watch TV that much, so I was unaware of that. And but that's what made me aware of the TST was through Comedy Central. Then I reached out to them and I figured out who they were and I contacted them because I didn't really know anything about it, much less than they all get on paper for me, and got behind and supported the Baphomet Monument and supported them with their separation of church and state. The whole program about getting the Baphomet Monument built and erected so that they could use that to get the 10 Commandments monuments taken down from state capitals to uphold the separation of church and state. One of the amendments in our Constitution. Down with that until I started to realize that that it was more than that. Now then they got kind of like the Baphomet Monument came with kids looking up to it, which I thought was weird. And I said something about it like, why are you guys having kids next to this Baphomet Monument? Kind of like we've already gotten past the fact that Satanists aren't pedophiles, but there's that rumor is still there. Why are you gonna fucking keep it up with these kids right there? And and
that's the most annoying part about them for me is they are clearly pro-pedophile, which and that's like setting a huge precedent that's not really needed right now.
I mean, I'm not sure if they're pro-pedophile. I don't want to say they're pro-pedophile, but they definitely are doing programs that involve a lot of kids, and using kids in their monuments and making cartoon characters, keep the Baphomet cartoonish fucking kid stuff. Like in the coloring books at school. That's when I jumped out. Is when they asked me when I was a chapter head of Portland. I was asked to go to schools and pass out these coloring books. Right? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? No fucking way am I doing that. For one, it's ridiculous. Two, the after school program is fucking silly, and anybody who does that is fucking asking for it. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And that's when I realized that there's like a whole like ultra left, which now the TST is basically it's an LGBT left political activist group that uses Satanism and its religious protections to push a left-wing agenda. Now, I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with what their left-wing agenda is, but it's become so filled and infiltrated with the LGBT, ultra-left, even Antifa. Now is like making Satanism this like cartoonish, kiddish, fucking weird shit that it's never meant to be. So I just, dropped my sword along with Brian Warner, singer of Vital Remains, or former singer of Vital Remains, and a lot of other notable Satanists who just left because of that ridiculousness. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's what was the other theories about the TST, man? Sorry, I went on my little tirade there.
No, I have plenty. And it's it's definitely a political front organization, and I believe also, as I said, there's just been this element of Satanism that the media's wanted to get rid of for years, but couldn't really do it because, like, Satanism, even like, our version of Satanism still, doesn't really say anything that you can impeach in the media. We even practice something called left-hand path, which it has nothing to do with left-hand politics, by the way. But it was a pretty hard thing to get rid of, but not very well liked by the establishment. Satanism was, and so there was many. I think there was many attempts to like get rid of Satanism as a cultural meme, and they just kind of failed because people like it so much. It was one of the first self-serving religions, or paths of ideology. It's very individualistic.
Yeah, it is. And Satanism isn't really. It's a philosophy. It's not political. And for them to try to make it political, because I know Satanists who are the left and Satanists who are the right. I consider myself more centered, but I've met conservatives and liberals who still identify themselves as Satanists. It has nothing to do with politics. It's a philosophical thing, and so to blend it with politics is just kind of asinine to me. But
how does adopting a highway help me? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm my own God, then why do I need to adopt a highway to piss off Christians? I understand trolling the church is fun, but it's not really something you should make your whole identity about. That's basically all they do is they troll the church. And I'm like, okay, that's funny. We've been doing that for years, but what does that do? And why are they always on camera, just trying to get people to look at them? And it's like it's everything that Satanism shouldn't be in that respect. It should be something more behind closed doors. It should be something more personal rather than this big group thing kind of thing. And I think group thinking, like that whole hive mind philosophy is the biggest problem humanity faces right now, because that's what's keeping us away from that next big advancement in human technology, human society, just education in general. And if we can't make that leap until this hive mind thing is broken up.
Well, yeah, you're right. And people need to stop identifying as, in my opinion, as a political party, because politics is fucking stupid for one. If you're going to start looking at people on it as individuals or as humans and not Republicans or Democrats or libertarians or conservatives, then I think, we'll get a lot further. And unfortunately, there's so much money being made by the people that control the media and stuff to collect us and to push us into groups and categories that they can, profiteer off of. Because individuals don't buy into that shit. We don't buy, into this political regime, or we don't buy. We're not very good consumers, basically. Individuals are. We buy.
Oh yeah, and the society punishes us for that too.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, I know you're a fan of the Hidden Persuaders by Vance Packard, like myself, and yeah, individuals are the worst consumers. We only buy what supports our own needs, not what supports a group's needs that we don't even really belong to.
Oh yeah, and I'm a very big rejecter of fashion for the most part. I don't buy the new thing that's in. I wear the same clothes for like 2 years. And I don't buy a lot of the vanity products that most people use. I mean, I do use soap, obviously, but I don't have like a whole bunch of products either, because I don't wash my hair all the time either. I don't know why people do that. It destroys your hair, and they wonder why they start balding when they're like 34. Or, why all their hair is white when they're just in their 50s. That's why you used all those fucking products on your hair, and then, your hair wasn't healthy for any point in time in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. As far as like the personal hygiene, yeah, I don't know. I don't wash every day. I don't bathe every day unless I'm fucking sweaty, unless it's hot. And but I do try to wash the pink parts, the important parts. I do tend to keep them holding. But yeah, the shampoo stuff is fucking stupid, man. Some people have really oily hair. That's different. But for the most of us, don't need to bathe every day and wash every day our hair and whatnot. To the extent with these high fucking products. Right. With these products that are meant to scrub all of your natural scents off, all of your natural oils, which protect us, by the way, from bacteria and germs, scrub all that away and replace it with artificial shit. Makes no sense. Obviously nobody wants to stink,
it's like you could even, this mentality that causes, this kind of consumerism and that causes these products to have value kind of goes back to an underlying current. That's why, I see a lot of people on the right saying that, the mainstream society is attacking the family. Well, not directly, but they aren't wrong. Because what mainstream society wants to do is replace the family with either a governmental or a political authority. And, that we see that with psychology, for example. Like, the whole thing of going to a shrink is something new, okay? The closest thing you had to that was a priest back in the old days. You go to confession. The priest basically did the same thing psychologists do now, except in a bit more of a stylistic way. Now, before you had the priest, you had an elder in your community, and things were much better off back then, I think. Is because, the communities used to preserve their elders, and, it was a bias-free source of information sometimes about recent history. And, we ignore our elders a lot. They don't really play a serious part in our society, if you haven't noticed that, here in the United States.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Absolutely.
Like, old people aren't, elderly people aren't given the respect that they are in other cultures now. And, although, there's some, I understand the dumb boomer meme, but there's some smart boomers too that, saw a lot of stuff that we didn't, especially the ones that were around. Okay, well, I guess they wouldn't be boomers. Oh, well, some of them would be. The ones that were around in the 60s saw a lot of crazy political stuff happen, and, they need to be heard as far as their opinions on what's happening now, because they've seen, the whole society, shit on itself quite a few times, and they're a very good canary in the coal mine as if something really bad is going to happen in the country politically. As older people.
Well, that is true. And obviously you got to balance it out. I mean, I don't respect old people simply because they're old. Respect.
No.
Right. Yeah. And I know that's not what you're saying, but yeah, it's like, the whole thing with like, old and wise, not necessarily. I know a lot of stupid old motherfuckers too, but there is something to be said about someone who's, who still has their wits about them and has lived through things that you and I, regardless of how intelligent we are, we just haven't lived enough life to actually have experienced some of this shit yet, and, so yeah, there's that to be said. And so, yeah, I agree. Yeah, man. So,
well, I mean, and also well, this is what one guy told me who's like 75. You know, imagine slowly watching your money become worthless over your adult life. You know what I mean?
That would piss me off to know all the shit that I worked so hard and spent at least 40 hours a week or however much or more, right? Working for is now has no value. Yeah, that would piss me off.
Yeah, you know they very much notice that. If you talk to any retired person, they will. And you bring up like politics or you bring up like, oh well, what do you think about the world and living here in this country? And they're like, oh well, my money's worthless now. My money used to be worth a lot more. It's something they just notice that. They don't. Not all of them know why. Most of them do. And that's what's kind of interesting is, they're trying to tell the people, the younger generation that's going crazy right now that, hey, look, you're being duped. You've been had. They're tricking you. And but Gen Z, man, Gen Z just won't listen. They just love it. They lap it up, dude. And Gen Z is the big problem, in my opinion, because and the reason I brought up what happened with Milosevic was. This is the exact same. They're attacking Trump the same way they attacked him, which is basically they take control of all the younger people and get them indoctrinated, and then use them as a springboard to attack the government, and attack the institutions, and you can just it all goes back to this media bullshit people are consuming, And I was like, dude, the violence would stop today if you stop Twitter, for example. If Twitter wasn't a thing anymore, watch the violence go away.
Really? I have a Twitter account, but I never use it except to I spam it with my videos. That's all I do. I don't actually go on it and read anything. I heard Twitter is I've heard that before though. The Twitter is today's news, even more so than Reddit.
Yeah, well, Reddit's also a problem. I mean, all of these apps are biased, man. All of them are. Even the free ones are kind of biased in the other direction too, and it's kind of annoying, That's why it's hard to find true information, and why for years I didn't have a very clear picture of the actual state of the world and what was going on, because there's just so much confusion because of all this bias. But get rid of the social media platforms, and this shit will stop. Because people will eventually forget about it. That's just people are dumb, man. And just this year in general has showed me how dumb people actually are. And it was kind of worrying because, when it first started happening, I was like, oh, come on, you guys don't believe this shit. Oh, wow, they do believe it. And then I got kind of worried that, the mob was going to get even more violent. And there's been more deaths this year than when they tried this last year. That's definitely been true. The mobs have been a lot more dangerous this time around. I wouldn't know exact numbers of the deaths, but I do know there's probably been more deaths this time than there was in 2016, for example. You didn't really hear a lot about people actually dying in the action that happened. You remember that?
Not really, man. I don't really. You said 2016, right?
Yeah.
As far as the political stuff. Yeah, you're right. There wasn't a lot of emphasis on the people weren't getting shot anyway. Yeah. At least that wasn't.
This year is definitely a lot more violent.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's because it's been also raveled in with Black Lives Matter. And it's been and yeah, I think it's been divided in a sense where it's it's Black Lives Matter and you're liberal, or you don't care about, or you're a fucking racist bigot. You're one of the two. It's really, come on, really.
Well, you know what that does? It creates actual racist bigots out of people who just didn't really care before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I keep whenever somebody just brings up the fact, oh, these Nazis, you're creating them. They exist, After you guys socially cannibalize that kid, yeah, he's going to go on Paul and learn about history a little bit and probably get. 3 weeks later, you got a storm gun. So it's sad to see. I call it social cannibalism is what they do. And so it was sucked and it was annoying this year, and it's going to be even more annoying next year if more of this stuff doesn't come out and people don't get more aware. Because I don't want to have to go through this again.
Yeah,
it was a real pain in the ass.
Speak about what you mentioned. I've known several people, in fact, several females too, that were not, racist, before they started getting beat up for no reason other than being white. then, you know, and they live in certain parts of the country, but major cities, man, like the Northwest and stuff. You know, I've known people who were just, you know, like everybody else, and then they got beat up because they were white one too many times by a group of black people, and now they hate black people. And I'm just saying, like you said, you know, the racism things will make racists. It will, because, you know, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a problem, and I'm not saying that it's justified, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's not. It's the Black Lives Matter only focuses on this one group of people that may have had hate crimes or may have been, you know, suffer from police injustices. Right? Guess what? A lot of people suffer from police injustices. That's all I'm saying. Not just black people.
Oh yeah, and well, see, they do damage to their own movement that way, and you know it's kind of scary the fact that you can't really talk to these people, because I had the idea, I was like, okay, well, if there's such a problem, you could disarm the police. Like in Sweden, they don't have guns. You know what I mean?
True.
Why wouldn't they not? Why not push for that? Why not? Like they just want to defund it completely. And like, I mean, I hate pigs, so I mean, I'm okay with that. But I mean, it's not very realistic. You know what I mean? Like, you know, no one thinks that that's actually going to happen. I don't think.
No one's going to disarm America just because, I mean, one of the reasons why we are America, I mean, what was it? The First or Second Amendment was, you know, right to bear arms. So it's like, I mean, we're not going to ever do that. But, you know, and I honestly, I mean, I like San Diego police are pretty fucking cool, to tell you the truth, man. Compared to like Phoenix police, which suck ass. I mean, those are some fuckers that will fuck with you for no reason because of the way you look. I mean, you know, whether you're white.
I'm from the South. You know, I know it very well.
Okay. Yeah, I've been fucked with in Phoenix for no fucking reason other than they had nothing better to do. In San Diego, that hasn't happened yet. In fact, I've gotten out of a few situations where I probably should have gone to jail from San Diego police because I was cool and they were cool. But yeah, I mean, so, but you know, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't like it. I'm not supporting authority. I mean, but we do need some sort of authority if you want to live, unless you're willing, again, to protect yourself and to protect your property against fucking random acts of violence and criminals. Unless you're willing to do that, which if you want to go to Mad Max stage, you know, we can, but you know, we do need some sort of law enforcement. I think so. I mean, is it a perfect system? No. Does it get abused? Absolutely. It does occasionally, sometimes, but you know, I don't know. I kind of think that we do need some sort of law enforcement. You know.
Well, I'll put it even simpler than that. A lot of people are anarchists till they experience actual anarchy. And that's what happened with me. Like I was a very far left wing anarchist until I actually went somewhere that was completely anarchic, and it was fucking nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to be able to lock my door at night and be able to sleep fairly comfortably, thinking that nobody's going to throw a brick through my window and come in with fucking fire and rape and fucking pillage my shit. Yeah. That's
well, and if people want to actually get rid of the problems, I can't say it enough times. If you want to get rid of all these problems, get rid of the media, dude. They've been bullshitting for years. It's been proven. You know, that needs to be taken care of, because I mean, you know, the whole reason. All right, so let's say you are a complete racist after, you know, whatever, and you know, and you're mad at black people and black people piss you off. Well, that happened because they act like that because the media told them it was okay. You know, you see all these rappers acting fucking stupid, and you see it in movies, and you see it in TV shows, and I mean, and it's like it's part of the culture. And I get that they make some really great music and everything like that, but the media is what's causing all this racism and shit, because it's giving people caricatures to you know, like caricatures to take on. Like, you know, you got the redneck guys who watch redneck guys on TV and say, oh, well, that's pretty cool, and then they dress like rednecks and they're redneck guys. And, you know, that's these persona memes that the media has created is what does actually create the racism, because before they started pushing it in 2015, you know, no one really took it all seriously. Like, racism was one of the things you laughed at, like, oh, yeah, people used to hate each other because they were different colors. You know, it wasn't as big of a deal. And then you had the media just started pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And, you know, 10 years later, we have this.
We have somebody in the audience, Logan, who wants what's his name? Thoughts about the Illuminati. Your mate. Thoughts about the Illuminati. You want to go?
Yeah, sure. Well, okay. There's different levels of belief as far as the secret cabal that actually runs the world. I can tell you with 100% certainty there is one. They're not too secret, called the United Nations. And before that, there was conflagrations of bankers that did manipulate currency and set up cartels. And those are your supposed Illuminati. Now, they, as a group, the elite, are not one big happy family. Okay, you have different factions of them. You've got the Bonesmen, you've got the Masons, you got the different groups in Europe, you've got the Jewish groups. You know, it's maybe 9 or 8 groups of people, and then of course you have the European nobility, which are still very much in power. You know, nowadays. Do you know George Bush is actually related to King Henry V, I believe?
Did not.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of them that are related to European nobility, and they just kind of hide behind the scenes. And you know, they're there. They're there for sure. And whether they're gonna drink your kid's blood, I don't know if it goes that far. I do know rich people like to fuck children. I mean, it's one of those, you know, taboo things that they'd like to do. And it's as I said, that guy who posted and talked about working for Epstein, he was like, they do it because it's like, ooh, this is bad, you know. But we're you know, and they're not getting in trouble for it, and it's very you know, exhilarating for them. So yeah, they definitely do some pedophilia in the elite, but whether they're going to drink anybody's blood, no. I do know where that came from, though. If you want me to talk about that real quick.
Yeah, real quick though. I'm going to throw my thoughts out before I lose it on the Illuminati. The Illuminati, the Illuminated. I mean, I think it's way blown out of proportion. I mean, I think it's basically a simple fact that the rich want to stay rich. So they promote from within, and they are somewhat secretive about their political and financial connections, because in order for them to keep doing so, if it were to be known, it could be attacked and it could be dismantled, or at least it could be attempted to. So is there a secret society of rich people that want to stay rich? Absolutely there is. And like you mentioned, bankers, United Nations is a good one. People, politics. But is it a secret satanic group that rapes children and does weird shit like that? Doubtfully. Are the people involved in that might be pedophiles? Maybe, probably, right? But there are pedophiles in everything. There are pedophiles in the church. There are pedophiles in politics. There are pedophiles in both the right and left. You know, sick people do sick things, you know, and they're going to have people who were born with power and money that might be part of this infrastructure, which people call the Illuminati. But like Logan said, they're not all in agreement with each other. There's not one big group where they hold hands in black robes and chant satanic shit and all love each other. Not at all. A lot of them are actually at odds against each other. But, you know, couple of these people might be pedophiles. Now, the whole Epstein Island thing and all those politics, I don't necessarily believe in all that to the extent where everybody that visited that island was a pedophile, all the Clintons. I mean, is it possible? Yes. But I think it's possible. Like people say, oh, look, Trump's a pedophile because look, there's a picture of him with Epstein. It's like, you know what? Epstein was a powerful person. You know, he had a lot of money. He was influential. He was involved in a lot of groups. So you're going to see pictures. There are pictures of people with me, right, that have done weird shit that's like, don't call me. I'm just having a picture with this dude. Like, you know, because he took it, hey, Zach, what's up? I'm like, what's up? That doesn't mean I'm his buddy, you know, or I believe the exact same shit he does. So I'm thinking like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not going to dismiss it, you know.
I think well, it's and there's some people I still to this day get nervous being photographed among my friends. I'm like, I hope he doesn't do something.
Right.
But yeah, and so the whole adrenochrome and drinking blood thing, it took me a while to figure out where this started. Part of it was Hunter S. Thompson. He alluded to it in one of his books, and I think he was just trying to sell books. But there is something that the rich actually do. And what it is they will pay an extremely healthy athlete for their blood and get a transfusion of healthy person's blood. And it's supposed to be a way that rich people get high, or just it's a recreational thing they do. That I know is true. That you can have that done if you have enough money. I don't know exactly how that works. It took me I had to wade through a lot of bullshit until I find an actual case of rich people, you know, using other people's blood. But what they do is there's this company that pays like really healthy athletes blood for this treatment, and that's completely real. But I don't think they're as far as the adrenochromes of scared and adrenaline-filled people being so-called, you know, this fountain of youth. I'll tell you, the Queen would look a lot better if that was true.
Yeah. I know there's something in Australia. I'm sure actually it's in America too, where they take your blood and they spin it around and they somehow separate like the blood cells, and they inject you with a lot more of white blood cells of your own, though, right? And a boost the immune system. And we've been experimenting with blood transfusions and weird blood things that aren't really that popular unless you have a lot of money. So it doesn't surprise me that people buy, I mean, that's where the whole drinking of blood came from, like you said, the whole vampire thing, right? Like, the kings of England, like, would bathe themselves in the bloods of virgins. Some of the weird fuckers would, right? Because they thought that it would preserve their youth, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't put anything past the medieval European, man. They believe some pretty wacky shit.
Right. But it makes sense though. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I had a lot of money, I mean, I'm not saying I would go like kill all these fucking virgins and bathe in their blood, but it kind of makes sense that maybe it could, like, if you're an aging fucking king and you were growing old, or especially queens. I think the queens were the ones that did it the most. Yeah, and you were suffering from vanity and age and shit, and you knew you were on your way out. If you had the money and didn't like these bitches that your fucking king was fucking, right? Like, hey, henchman, go kill those bitches that giving my fucking, husband a blowjobs. Bring them heads here and drain their blood in my bathtub, and I'm gonna sit.
Yeah, you're referring to Elizabeth Bathory, and that was real.
Okay,
there's some people that like to deny that, but that actually happened. There's multiple sources that recorded
it. Hell yeah, man, hell yeah. I think it has merit. I mean, I'm not just, obviously didn't work very well, but I could see that.
Well, it raised a huge stink among the Eastern European nobility at the time, because it was like a huge propaganda coup for the Catholic Church. And so once the Vatican got a hold of that, man, they had to tell everybody. It was on woodcuts in England.
Oh, wow. Nice. You know what? We're already pushing past an hour. We got time for one more conspiracy theory. What do you want? You want to, I'll let you pick, Logan, since you're the guest, man.
Okay, let me see here. What should we do?
If you can't, I'll choose something randomly, but I'll give you the first shot at it.
Okay, well, the fluoride thing's completely true. Fluoride's absolutely horrible for you. There's not really much to be explained there, but yeah, they are putting fluoride in the tap water, which is probably not a good idea. And so that's true. And let's see what else. The whole gosh, what was that? 9/11. Read the stuff about 9/11. If you haven't gotten that one yet, I kind of was like refraining from mentioning that. But if you haven't checked that out and you've been like an American for like 25 years of your life, you should probably go read that stuff, because they got people to believe some pretty ridiculous shit with regards to 9/11. One example being, they expect you to believe that one of the hijackers' passports fell out of the plane as it crashed into the building and landed on the sidewalk and was found by the FBI subsequently.
That would be fucking incredible if that happened. Right?
Yeah. Well, and they're also saying, okay, first of all, they're saying an entire building came down from a fire from jet fuel. And of course, you watch all this stuff, it'll tell you that, jet fuel can melt steel beams and all this other stuff. But then they say that the fire left from one of the World Trade Center buildings to WTC 7, and that building didn't even get hit by a plane, and it got caught on fire and it completely collapsed. So the 9/11 was pretty ridiculous, man. I'm still surprised to this day that people believed that. That's what kind of started me off on the trail of getting the knowledge I have now with that, because that was appalling to watch, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious, especially after 20 years now, and as much evidence has come forward, that and the hype has gone down, and that literally, pun intended, the dust has settled, from 9/11. That it's probably unlikely, like same thing with, like, I don't know, the idea that a handful of hijackers carrying fucking box cutters could take down a plane of 150, 200 people. I'm saying, like, don't get me wrong, yeah, these some extreme Islamists, whatever, might cut a few people, maybe even a couple people might die, but is everybody a fucking pussy? Like, would you not stand up if you know that if they get to that cockpit? And what the fuck? Like, why does anybody open the cockpit door? Like, do they have deadbolts on this fucking thing? Try opening the door with a box cutter. I don't care if you kill everybody behind me in that fucking plane, right? You're not coming in this fucking cockpit. Like, there's 200 against 4 of you, motherfuckers. Let the 200 fucking figure it out, right? Otherwise, you ain't getting in this plane, because then we're all gonna die. But yet somehow they're able to fucking kick these doors down. I don't get it.
Yeah. It's just too much to ask for me to believe. It really is, and it has been ever since that happened. And and you look at the stuff that's happening now, and I'm like, man, just people have gotten worse every year. Like Gen Z, dude. Gen Z is so screwed. I mean, I don't even know where to start with Gen Z. They have, not only do they not have really access to this information, but if they, get out of line in any way from the narrative that they're supposed to believe, their friends will attack them. Like, they'll lose their entire social life if they investigate the real story behind stuff. That's what it goes back to what I was calling social cannibalism.
Yeah. I mean, did like somebody who had I think it was Q Sticks mentioned about the about the missile hitting the Pentagon, whatever. I mean, it's just I don't get it. It doesn't make a lot of it doesn't make any sense. One, how these people even got in the cockpit should be the first question. How they even got on a plane? Okay, how they were trained at places to fly planes and then got on a plane and they were already under suspicion, and then how they even got in the cockpit to fly a plane with such precision as to hit like the Pentagon, right?
Well, and they even had the guy in the documentary that supposedly trained one of them to fly and said, "Oh yeah, he was a terrible pilot."
I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, but did the planes go down? Did a lot of people die? Absolutely. But that's kind of weird. Maybe, I mean, who knows? Maybe the planes had fucking guidance systems bolted on them so that at a certain point, boom, those planes fucking took off and were under remote control. That's what I think. I don't think the terrorists like fucking were able to get in the cockpit. Did they put terrorists on the planes? Probably. Those terrorists actually die? Probably. Maybe. Who knows? But I think the planes were definitely under. I think a lot of people died. I don't think the pilots would do it. I don't even think 200 people on the plane would intentionally let 5 hijackers get through the cockpit so they could all die. I think the planes are probably on a remote control fucking thing. Poof, at targets. Poof, 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 poof. And like you said,
I mean, watch the video. And I think the video was either very doctored or completely fake with regards to the plane hitting the building, because the building doesn't react in any way it's supposed to by getting hit by a plane. First of all, you're going to see half the plane stuck out of the building. It's not going to go all the way in.
I don't know about that, man. Planes fly pretty fucking fast, man. I would expect if anything, the building would fucking fall like right away, like the top of the part where the impact would fucking fall like and crumble sideways. That's what.
Or maybe bend a little bit like they're supposed to in earthquakes,
Something, yeah. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but yeah, though I don't. Yeah, see, like some of the theories, like that it was doctor and stuff. I don't know, man. There's a lot of footages on 9/11 of that plane hitting that building, but either way, I think everybody can pretty much agree upon that we were given misinformation about what happened and how it happened. At least, I mean, could they have doctored the films? Yes, it's possible, but then they would have to have like seized like so many fucking individuals that were just standing around taking pictures of it, right?
Yeah.
That'd be hard to do. Is it possible? Sure it is, but that'd be really hard to cover up all that video footage. Though I think so. If 100 people, even if 100 people filmed it, like I don't know. But we're talking about the early 2000s. There wasn't a lot of video equipment back then, as far as like personal, like
Well, yeah, not everyone had one on their phone back then.
Right, exactly. The phone thing. That's what I'm saying. Like now I'm thinking about it. Like, okay, I'm thinking like in 2000, I didn't even have one of these. I didn't even have a little fucking shitty, Walmart camera, that everybody carries in their pocket, but a cell phone, right? That you're talking on. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Now everybody will have recorded that shit. So it's going to be interesting to see if that shit happens again now with the technology the way it is, right? With the video on every fucking phone, unless you got a
and the phones are a bigger part of this, man. People are getting their personalities from their phones nowadays. That's like clearly the screens are making them who they are. And that's that's the kind of scary part for me, because I don't know if you noticed it. You grew up without social media too. I was around for the ass end of that, but it was a very different world in general before all this.
Yeah, well, absolutely, man, absolutely. Cell phones changed dramatically because our just the internet, it changed dramatically everything, because now it's like information is at our disposal. The information age is here. Before you had to go and hunt it out and look through card catalogs, these things we called libraries to find these things that we used to call books, and that's all been like long forgotten by most people. Now it's all, it's Wikipedia, Google it, and don't get me wrong, that's a magical weapon of information at your disposal, but there's a magical infiltration of misinformation that you come across, and the people who control this media we call the internet also control what you will believe when you Wikipedia shit and you Google shit. So it's not, it's a two-edged sword. It cuts both ways.
Yeah, and well, and you get attacked a lot, and your reputation suffers if you write on this subject, on any of these subjects. And But I until recently, I've been publishing material anonymously. But this year, I'm going to be coming out with my first full book, which is going to be Revolution of Realism. So people can watch out for that. And I go into depth about a lot of the stuff about some of the cults that happened in the 60s, some of the cults that are active now, and why social media is creating this mainstream normal person cult. And like it has all the hallmarks of a cult. And that's one of the main things I do in the beginning of the book is I outline exactly what a cult is, who a cult member is, who a cult leader is. And, because I don't think people really understand that. And the only way to be able to, even introduce some of these red pills is to, get rid of that hive mind aspect, even cause some resentment of it. Because I believe you should not resent the individual for being part of the hive mind, but the hive mind itself should be resented. And as I said, that's the barrier we got to break down before things are going to get better. So, anybody that takes the time to research, anybody that takes time to produce material on this, you're doing wonderful work. Keep doing it, and, make sure and guard yourself. Try not to get doxxed if you're putting out something really controversial. Because, and all of your listeners that are first getting into this stuff, is the first time they've heard about it, this stuff can be dangerous to your career. It can be dangerous to your your educational career. I mean, not career, but you could get thrown out of university for publishing some of this stuff. So you got to be careful because there is real danger here. There is real censorship, and I just want to make sure people are warned about that because nobody warned me when I first got into this stuff.
Right on, man. Thanks, Logan, man, and thanks for being on the show, man. I'm gonna wrap it up now because YouTube doesn't like it if you go over an hour. They don't like suggest your shit because it's too long or who knows, right? But I know that's one of the algorithms they use. So,
all right, yeah, thanks for having me on again, man. This was a good one.
Yeah, we'll do another one, man. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. That was Logan, and have a good night, guys.
All right, later.